To Leadership Live. I get to say hello to everyone at the same exact time.
Woohoo.
And let's see, we got to crank this up a little bit, Connie. We came down
Yeah,
to the wire.
I know. I'm sorry about that. Thank you for your patience.
We are all good. Welcome to Leadership Live. Leaders everywhere. You're going to be blessed today by the one and only Connie Sanchez.
So
Have you
sweet.
ever felt like you have been pushing a string? You ever felt like leading your people has been like herding cats? You ever felt or said the phrase, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink? Well, we are going to fix that today with Connie Sanchez. And Connie, you're going to fill in the blanks for me where I'm missing it. But I know you learned sales and leadership like you just like skipped all of the school together. You just started doing it from a young age and you started crushing it from a young age. And then you went from being a top producing salesperson to being a top leader to running this company and running that. You are the wife of a pastor. You and your husband lead people that it might be like pushing a string sometimes. You have seen every angle of this thing, and now you've developed into this person that is uh, leading maybe the most difficult group of them all, these awesome children in the place of the home classroom. Um,
That's
Connie,
right.
you've got a lot to share with us. Tell me where we missed it, and tell us what you love today. What's going on with Connie Sanchez?
I love it. Okay, well, first of all, thank you, Donnie. You're so sweet. I love your energy. You're like getting me pumped up. So I love that intro. Hi everybody. I'm Connie Sanchez, like Donnie said, and I mean, he really did just kind of give you the gist of it. I've had a diverse background in sales since I was 16 and started in telemarketing back when you could actually call people during dinner and they would give you their social over the phone. So that was my start to sales, was the mortgage industry, and I've just done all different types of sales since. And like he said, recently I have taken on maybe one of the greatest leadership projects of leading women, and it's the two little women in my home that are 5 and 8, and also deciding to homeschool for the first time. So that's been a journey in and of itself. And all while, yes, my husband is a pastor and leads a church. And oh, you know what? One fill in, and then we'll get to the good stuff, is that this homeschool journey that I decided to come on, and my husband leading this new church, all has come in the last year of us moving from California to Tennessee. So we are literally in an entirely new season in every single aspect of our lives. And it's exciting, it's adventurous. And what I love today is, it might seem trivial to some of you, but the sun is shining here and it's very, very hot and warm and reminds me of California weather. So that is bringing me life today. I need the sun. I live by the sun. So there you go. That's what I'm loving this morning. Yes.
Love it. Oh my gosh. Well, one of the things, like we're going to go into some tactics and all of that stuff. There's like, if you're a leader, you are in for some amazing stuff. But one thing I think that a lot of us can echo, Connie, that we're hearing in the changing of seasons is being able to see the season and embrace what it's offering. You have gone through a lot of transitions, and a lot of us, a lot of these leaders, they're having to go through market transitions. We have AI stuff happening around us. We have just all kinds of stuff like pressing against us, and sometimes we need to make that change. How have you been able to embrace that new creation energy so that instead of missing the old, creating the new?
Love that question. Honestly, a lot of it stems from just the past faithfulness of our little steps of obedience. This isn't our first rodeo, so to speak. So we've had several shakeups in our life. And for people of us, like people of faith, that's how this is. It's faith walking. It's part of, if you want to be growing and impacting and growing and impacting, then get comfortable with, chaos to some degree, right? Get a little bit comfortable with it. And we actually get excited for it because we know that this means there's more to do here for not just growing our families, but to impact other people. And so I look back at the past faithfulness of things and go, wow, if God was faithful to us then and we could do crazy things then, why not now? And why not now? And why not? It's always, we're always growing. We never want to be just stuck, so to speak. And I think with seasons, that's one of my favorite topics to talk about of all time, is understanding that if there are four seasons and God created four seasons, then there is a purpose for them. And so my job can be to kick and buck at them or to look at them and go, what can I get from the season? There is a reason for it. There's a reason for winter. Even though I hate it and it's cold and it's dreary, and I actually do hate it because I'm a sun person, like I told you, I can sit there and go, oh, and just like, cuddle up and go away until summer comes. Or I can say, okay, well, what's the purpose of winter? What actually happens in winter so that summer can be good? And I can learn and dig in and find the purpose in each season. And if you have that perspective, you will certainly find it. And if not, you certainly won't, right? So that's kind of
Wow.
how I look at it.
Yeah, amazing. And so, for those of you who are going through a downturn or like difficulty, there's something good even there. There's I deal with this a lot as a coach. A lot of times, Connie, people will they don't know why, but they wake up almost with like this sense of things aren't good. No, they may have 50 million in the bank or in assets or like doing like they may have a company that's been okay, but there's like this feeling, and what I see is this it's almost like a lens of expectation. We can look at a new season like with this negative, like like dread, doom and gloom, it's going to get worse, and like this feeling that goes along with it, or there's this positive expectation. Like how can we as leaders choose? How can we put on that positive lens and like yeah, talk to us.
Sure. Well, again, I think it's just understanding that that is a necessity to actually being a leader. That is a necessity to actually helping other people go through it, right? So if we know that it's inevitable there, that life is hard, can we all agree on that? Everybody can say amen. Life is hard. We know life is hard. The sun rises and sets, the rain falls on the just and the unjust. It doesn't matter how much money, like you said, it doesn't matter how healthy you are, how skilled you are, how many degrees are hanging on your wall. Life is going to happen to everybody. And so when we understand that and go, okay, it's inevitable that there are going to be these things, then we again look at them and go, well, then what can I get from them? Do I just sit back and go, oh, let's wait until everything's perfect? No, because that's not where good things are forged, right? Things are the good characters, the good qualities that we need to be leading our businesses, to be leading our homes, to be leading ourselves are forged in the fire, right? The refiner's fire. Lots of you know those analogies of how gold is formed and how precious gems are formed, and they're crushed and they're stamped on and they go through the fire. And that's the same with life. That is how our character is formed. If you think about who you want to follow as a leader, I would want to follow, if I'm on a boat in a crazy storm, I want a captain that has probably been through some crazy storms. I don't want a captain that was handed a boat as a little kid and put in a little backyard play pool and said, you're a captain. That's not going to work for me. I want the captain that's been through some storms. So those who want great
Yeah.
impact in their businesses and in their families and in their whatever, this is your time. This is almost like your time to go, oh my goodness, give yourself a pat on the back because you've arrived. You've arrived. So now go, wow, I'm being blessed with this test. I'm not trying to minimize anybody's pains or things because I understand some are very serious and I get that. I have them too. But it's perspective. At some point, you're going to go, okay, well, I can look at this as, oh my gosh, this is my test. This is my time to see what I can grow through this, who I can impact through this. And again, what better person to help the person who's been through a divorce than the person who's been through a divorce? What better person to help the failing entrepreneur who's declared bankruptcy 2 times than the person who maybe's been
Oh my
through the
God.
bankruptcy?
Yes.
So that's how I look at it, is everything is okay. It might not be fun. I don't have to pretend it is. We don't need to sweep things under the rug and put on a smile and go, get the whip out and beat our team and say, get to work, even though we're dying inside.
Mm.
That's not helping anybody. We want to be transparent. We want to be authentic. And in that, you guys just saying, okay, how can I grow from this will open up a tremendously different perspective and a different outcome.
Hmm. That is so good. Yeah, I always say look for the leader with a limp. You want to find the one that has
Right.
been through something because actually the truth is sometimes people who are in a successful place, I don't want to say they didn't earn it, but maybe they were just the right person at the right time in the right place. And now that is not
Right.
it's not the case. You
Leaders, yeah, leaders emerge in times of crisis. That's where they're formed and that's where they emerge, you know. It's so that's who I look for, exactly like you said. Who's holding the lamp in the darkest place? That's who I'm going to probably be drawn to. They don't need to necessarily know exactly which way they're going, but if they're holding the lamp and they're stepping it out and going first, that's typically where I'm going to follow.
it's interesting. Was working with someone not too long ago, and then it was a couple of someone. So it was in this, and it was in a company that was they had it was banking, lending, and there was this immense shame that one guy was carrying. And these two people knew each other, and then another guy was also carrying something very similar. It had to do with debt that they had incurred. Like, I was so stupid, I shouldn't have borrowed. And yet, when you look at it, it's interesting that sometimes what's happening to a human is happening to the company culture. It's just unseen. How can we use vulnerability to disarm shame and I don't want to say guilt, but like definitely shame and see hidden things? What would you say to that?
Oh my gosh. Well, I would say that's one of the greatest missing pieces in leadership in any, just pick an industry. I don't, even in churches, okay, because I got that side too, like churches, whatever, sales, whatever. Transparency and authenticity is one of the greatest needs, and I believe is lacking in many regards. Okay. And because we don't see the power in utilizing it and what it actually can do when you are transparent and authentic. Does that mean you, as the boss of the company, need to open up your books tomorrow and go to every employee and say, here? No, you don't. You have wisdom in it, but sometimes people, most times, people are more motivated by your mistakes than they are by your successes. They
Mm.
will be more motivated when they go, oh my gosh, Donnie, Donnie who's been doing this forever, Connie who's been doing this forever, or who I see in my eyes as the one who's made it and who is where I want to go. You're telling me they had fear this week. You're telling me they had a bad call with a client and they really messed up and they lost that client and they had to go, save face and apologize or whatever. Like
Mm.
those things that make high performers and high achievers human to those who are trying to get there are everything. It goes, wow, I'm just like you. And if you messed up and you made it, okay, I got this, right? So I'm going to be much more motivated to people's mistakes in a sense and how they kind of worked through that and their transparency by it. I'm like, wow, that's probably one of the greatest things you can do as a leader, a boss, a manager.
Yeah, it's funny. I was helping a guy get a training program going, and he had all of these people. They showed up, and he had a call, like the system, the call, and where he's doing this live call in front of people, and he closed the call, and then it happened again with the next group. He closed the call, and I was talking to him. I said, actually, that's probably the worst thing that can happen is that people see this immediate, easy success because it doesn't always happen that way that really it's like what happens. I don't want to say it's what happens after you get punched in the face, but it's like people winning looks like being slightly above mediocre, but not quitting. Like sometimes it's
Right.
not like it's not being stellar. Now you talk, Connie. You've been in lots of different situations, and people bring you in to motivate. And there's something that I've heard you say, we've in our interactions and just some of the stuff that I've read from that's from you. It's like, but a lot of people are trying to lead, but they haven't taken the time to understand. And like even some of what we're reflecting is like sometimes like understanding like the depth of what people are going through matters. But can you position that for us? How can we be
Yeah.
better at that?
Well, you can't expect what you don't inspect, right? Many of us use that phrase a lot. And so, I think what happens is we get in these roles, and to no fault of some leaders, again, that didn't sign up to be counselors or, psychologists. They're like, I just want to go to work and like lead the team to get some sales. Like, I'm not trying to be everybody's best friend and know, what happened in their childhood. And so they totally can disassociate with the whole like, get to know your team. And they almost write it off as like, that's way too mushy gushy for me. Like, get to work and go do your job. But we got to find a middle ground, right? If we genuinely do want to be successful, and especially if you're working with people for the long term. And so something we used to do in the recent organization I was in is we would do just these onboarding forms that were very simple for every single person that we each were responsible for, of who they are, how they tick, how do you like to be rewarded, what do you do for fun on your off time, what are you most, this will be huge, by the way, for some of you, what are you most looking forward to in taking on this job or this role? Basically, like, what is most exciting about this new role? What kind of scares you about this new role? And maybe is something you're uneasy about stepping into the role, if you could be so honest. Like, just a quick onboarding sheet. Again, this does not need to be in third grade, this does not need to be super deep. It is literally one sheet of about 10 questions. And that will help you just kind of start to see, okay, wow, so no wonder they're not so engaged every time I throw out the like bonus for
Mm,
$1,000. They're not really motivated by the money. They're more driven by the team aspect and words of affirmation recognition or whatever. It just helps you understand how people tick and how they operate. And so that in and of itself was a huge game changer, especially when I was leading hundreds of women with all those wonderful emotions, right? Women, wow, we were just, I mean, in all different stages of life, like we can't assume they're all just like me. Just because they have kids my age and are around my age doesn't mean anything, right? They're all driven by different things. And that helped me very much so in my focused talks when I'd have to come to them when things weren't meeting and when things weren't aligning. I would get that sheet out and remember, oh yeah, she said this, and oh, and then we can have a discussion based off what she said
mm,
motivated her,
yes.
not what I'm saying is motivate what should motivate her. No, 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 that doesn't work. It's what you told me motivates you. And then you can say, did something change from the time you filled that sheet out to now? Because seasons do change, et cetera, et cetera. So that would be maybe a good starting point.
I love that. And I see a couple of coaches in the ranks here. That's a big shortcut. By the way, I have 100% of people fill that out. And guess what your first conversation can be and should be? By the way, it should be talking about that. But the simplest questions like, okay, you said this. Tell me more about that. And people, Connie, will gush and they feel more connected, right? This like when you allow them to express these things.
Totally.
And that's actually the beginning of culture is when people feel
Yeah.
that connection. Where do you think we get it wrong? I mean, like, are we moving past it? Are we just trying to move too fast? Are we just too concentrated on metrics? Like, what do you think stops us from doing that?
Both. I mean, both things, right? Certainly for high achievers. And again, if you think about sales, I just lean on sales because that's my background, but put this in any arena. Again, I could apply this to the church. We're trying to grow the church. We're trying to whatever. So we get so focused on the end goal, thinking that the goal is the motivator.
Mm,
The goal is the byproduct of what motivates you. So I'm going to share a perfect example. We're building a house right now. It's almost going to be done. We're moving in about a month and a half. And so I'm excited for it. I am motivated. But the house is not the motivator. I don't tell people, oh, because I'm getting a house. That's what motivates me. Okay. But what about getting that house? Why do you want to get that house? Well, it's because I want to provide a home for my family. I want to provide a safe place. I want to host more people. I want more people in our home. I want to grow our community. That's the motivating driving factor to the goal, which the goal is the house. So we take the goal and oftentimes and make that be the motivator. Oh, well, I told you're going to get a bonus. Why aren't you work? What? You're getting a bonus. Why aren't you working? That's a big bonus. Why aren't you working? Like we land on numbers. We land on metrics because those are the things that are measurable, and we tend to scoot away from the things that actually fuel you to get to the metrics and the numbers. And
yeah,
so I, and yes, busyness and just rushing through and all of that.
that is so good. I would contend that if you don't know, it's interesting. I think goals are good, but goals are really indicators of values, I hope.
Right.
Now, if
Right.
if you don't know your own values, which that sounds weird for someone to say, But if you don't know what they are, you just tend to identify with goals. But the question is why do you want that? Why do you like you mentioned that you go a few
Yep.
layers deep, and it's like there's a reason for this.
Yep.
And if you know that, then I actually believe that your people will be connected. They'll allow you to co-pilot with them. But if you don't know that,
Yeah.
you'll never, you're missing out on so much engagement and opportunity to influence.
Right. And I think if you have people, or even if any of you are listening to this and you would honestly say, I kind of don't know. Like, I actually really don't know what motivates me, right? Because, like, in your early 20s, you're just trying to get in and maybe get the get a name for yourself and kind of climb up the ladder. If you're leading younger people, I believe this comes into play more often because they maybe don't have a ton of life experience and they genuinely can't say they know what their values are or what motivates them. So other just tips and tricks. I mean, many of you know the Myers-Briggs and personality tests and things like that. Those go so far. They are not what defines you, but they are what helps explain you. And Enneagram tests are fantastic. Like, and
Yeah.
just like having your people take those and then having them tell you, like, what'd you think? How does this explain you? These are all very cool things, you guys, that will help those who say, I actually don't really know. I don't even know how to fill out your onboarding sheet because I don't know
Mm.
really what my values or who I am. Those are things that could help explain that and bring that out.
And how valuable are you as a leader if you actually help someone to ask themselves those questions, right?
Totally. Exactly.
I love it. All right, Connie, we're going to go. I'm going to take that same thing and we're going to imagine that because a lot of us are parents here, right?
Hmm.
And I'm sure everyone has moments of brilliance and then moments of like, like, you know, what would be the parenting version of the online, like this onboarding form? I mean, onboarding, they're born, so we can't give them a form. So, but like,
Yep.
how would the same principle apply in parenting?
Okay, love the question because I'm walking through this right now. So I don't have all the perfect answers, but I will tell you what we're doing right now, what Phil and I are doing with our girls because we're at that perfect stage where the personality is now coming out, right? This is something you can really lean into in their younger years. You all know this. You start to see their personalities come out. You start to see, like for our girls, for instance, one is very much into bugs. She loves the bugs, she loves the butterflies, she loves the dirt. I've got another girl that just sings 24/7, sings 24/7, loves fashion, wants to do the dancing. And so you might glaze over that as a parent and just think these are kiddie things and they're just being a kid. Yes, but these are very big indicators of their little personalities right now that are things that you can lean into with them to feel where that goes and to show that you value what they value. I value what you value, Evie. So what are Phil and I doing? We're doing daddy daughter, mommy daughter dates in those particular areas. We go on lots of grasshopper hunts. We do lots of butterfly catching. We bought little books on butterflies that, it's just looking at your children and seeing how they're wired and what makes them tick. And even if it's not what makes you tick, okay, mom and dad, who we all want our kids to do the things we love, right? Well, they got to play sports because I played sports, or they got to dance because I dance. Okay, just pump the brakes though for a second. Just go, but what is it that genuinely makes them on fire and take an interest in that? It's the exact same thing with your teams. You're
Oh,
doing the
come on.
same thing with your teams, right? And so that's what we're doing right now with our kiddos is just trying to lean into those little areas and show that we value what they value, even if it's not what makes us tick. That is okay.
That's so good. And for those of you who are here, see the wisdom of how one thing transfers to another. Like it's all the same. When I was a school teacher, Connie, I realized that unless I could effectively build a bridge to what someone already knew or experienced, there's no way that any new knowledge I presented to them would be relevant enough for them to take in and value by any means. And that's all of us too. We just don't realize it. We don't
Right.
realize because people are really good at doing this professionally and checking their feelings at the door, but we can access those feelings. We can access
Yeah.
their heart.
Right. Without having to be, again, a counselor or a this or that. Like how some of you get fear. You're like, I don't know. I will be the first to say, like, even though I love to encourage people and I do love, I'm not the best with mentoring and counseling in those kinds of areas. But I'm telling you, when you just take an interest in people, guys, because it is unfortunately lacking so much in our world today, you will just light that person on fire. You almost have a loyal person for life when they know that, hey, they got my back. They genuinely do care about me. And that stands out for sure.
Take us into a place, Connie, you've seen a lot of things. I'm sure not all of it was beautiful. Can you bring us into a place where maybe there was a team, whether you were consulting or you were on or you were leading, where it wasn't this? It was the opposite of you had a lot of times we learn these things because we saw something get broken or it wasn't right. It hurt. Anything?
Oh, so many. Which one do I choose? Let's see. I will go with, again, my recent company I was in because it was the largest organization I was leading, and we had achieved some fantastic things. I'm talking incredible, beyond the belief. People were just on fire. I mean, we hit numbers that were out of the park for quite a few years consistently. We were just in that glorious, sweet summer season, right? But then what comes after summer? The fall, right? So this is, the entrepreneurial roller coaster. Great book, by the way. But
Yes.
so that's part of it, and I knew that's whatever inevitable at points, and so we had hit a point where we were just, you want to talk about unmotivated. We were just, woe is me. Everybody across the board, numbers were down, of course, because where your mental attitude goes, there, take your numbers with it. So, so if you want to talk in the dumps and you want to think in the dumps and you want to say how numbers are crappy this month, you're going to feel like that. Then your actions are going to follow like that, right? So it was just a hot mess. Everybody was down in the dumps. People were just jumping ship like crazy, all the things. And I was the leader. Okay. So couldn't blame it on the leader, or could I? Definitely had some things to learn, but, I got back to the basics. We say this phrase a lot, of back to the basics, back to the basics. And again, it has to start with the leader. Sometimes you're so far removed and you have so many levels beneath you that you assume everybody just like get to it, get on it, get it. I'm talking like pull your chair up with the newest salesperson on the team and sit next to her while she's making phone calls and listen with her and guide through her. So we went back to the basics. I started with my top performers and said, I went through a questionnaire with them and I said, what is making you so unmotivated right now? Tell me something maybe in your personal life or not. What about the job? Because there was only three ways we worked the business. There's three ways we worked our business. It was social media, events, and prospecting. So I would say out of the three, what has been the hardest for you? Because you will find that your team, when they're unmotivated or they're down, they're starting to everybody throw their hands up in the air and go, this is hard. This job is hard. This is just too hard. I'm not meant to do this. And they don't even realize it's probably just one, maybe two things about the overall job that's hard. It's not the whole job that they want to throw away, like throw the baby out with the bathwater type thing. I wanted to sift through the emotions and go, what really is hard? Because you're actually really good at events, or you're really good at whatever. You're just really lacking on the prospecting. So let's go do that together.
Mm.
Let's put a plan in place where I can prospect with you. Or if it's events, let me show you some of the ways I've done some of my recent events, or let's come to my next event and let's do. So it's getting down to the basics and making things simple. In times where people are unmotivated, the longer the sheets are, the longer the meetings, and the longer the calls, the less engaged. Keep it very simple and get back to the basics and see what are the one or two or three areas that they really are just struggling with. Then the next thing I did is, what are the one or two or three areas you feel you are the strongest in? What are your greatest strengths? Is it events? Is it prospecting? Is it social media? And then they would talk about that, and I'd say, see, that lights you on fire. So let's do more of what you're good at, right? The whole idea of obviously amplifying our strengths and maybe delegating some of our weaknesses, because your weaknesses are someone else's strength, by the way. And we did that. We're like, why are you trying to host events? You're honestly, girl, you're not that good, but you're fantastic at prospecting. So why don't you go prospect, and let's let Sally over here, who kills it at events, why don't you team up? Oh my gosh, genius idea. Now you're not brain damaged trying to do the whole thing by yourself. You're not even good at it anyways. Sally's really good at it. Like, let's come together. Okay, so first thing, what are you not liking? Put a plan in place. What are you loving? Let's amplify that. Third thing, utilize the team. You have to lean on other people when your legs are weak. Who is going to carry you? Your team, You've got all these people around you with strengths that are very, very, very good. And again, you can all sit around and do the cooler talk of this sucks, this is going down, numbers are bad. Or you can go, you know what, I'm actually really good at this. You're really good at that. Why don't we team up for the next month or two and lean on each other and get strong and figure this thing out together? So that's what we would do. And I would say, and then the last thing that we did during that time, there's two other things. This is long-winded, but I'm trying to just walk through what really turned the ship for us. The next thing that we did was the accountability has to be in place. It is no good to talk about these wonderful plans if you have no accountability to keeping them. And we all go back to doing the whole just, cooler talk. So it was many accountability sessions. Nobody needs month long. Well, I'll check in with you next month and see where your numbers are. Nope. Because they're going to be
Many.
many accountability sessions, micro, mini, whatever you want to call it. And so we would do them weekly. It was like, here's the plan. On Friday, we're chatting on how it went. Short, many achievable things that you can then praise them for, right? Because you want to light their sails in the process, not when they get to the end. Light their sails, strengthen their legs as they're running the marathon, not when they're dying at the end, right? They need the strength in the middle. So do those many things. And then the last thing, okay, some people think this is trivial. I said this in one of my other conversations with Alex, I think, that he asked me some questions on, and it is, you guys, go have fun. Like the minute you start losing the fun out of every ounce of everything you're doing, if you look back 10 years ago, the reason you started this business was you were so passionate and you had so much fun and you were on fire. Like, go do something fun. Sometimes your team just needs to go have fun. And I cannot tell you the amount of team building activities we've done. I know not everybody wants to go do an escape room with a bunch of their coworkers, but I mean, maybe you need to spend the hour doing that. And you're already down here, so how much lower can you go, guys? Like, just try some things and go do some fun team building activities. They don't have to be expensive. There's about 5 million of them. You could Google online right now and just laugh. And I'm telling you, with some of those few things I just threw out there, or all of them, do all of them, you might just see a little bit of a turnaround come, and then the numbers will follow.
Might. Oh my goodness. By the way, I had an acronym worked out for you, but you kept going.
Okay.
Yeah, like I really felt like a WTF was we were looking at
Okay.
weakness, top strength, and I changed team into family. That could have been a what WTF. But
Love it.
we could change we could hijack and change those letters, give them new meaning. But this is wow. I mean, like just writing over here, I know that everyone here took away something, and I love how you found the weak areas before most people they just get to the place where putting people on a PIP, like, okay, well, you have 30 days or 60 days to improve. And everyone here, if they're being honest, they know that the guilty party is partly them. And you're basically finding it, acknowledging it. You're not saying, hey, like, you're literally saying which part of this is not good for you. You're not like, is there a part of this? No, which part?
Yeah.
And you're making them
Yeah.
connect with that, and then you're putting them in their zone of brilliance.
Yeah.
Why do I feel like that a lot of the times we came up as leaders and we walked uphill in the snow both ways, barefooted, and so we want everyone to do everything. And a lot of us like resist aligning people with their zone of genius, their strengths.
Mm-hmm.
Why should that matter more? Or what would you say to that person? I guess the person that wants everyone to be everything.
Um, the person that wants everyone to be everything just needs to simply take a look at their own body. Are you an entire head? Is your whole body an arm? Is your whole body 1 foot? Every single piece of the body has its function and its purpose. And that's the way you were designed, because your head can't be your heart, and your heart can't do what your arms can do, and your feet can't do what your hands can do. And so every part of the body is there to do its purpose. And that is no different than the world we live in and our team and the people that we're working with. And I believe it's no accident you are where you are, and that you are there for a reason and on purpose. And it is to infuse and believe in the people, in the giftings that they have. There's no sense in me trying to tell my hand, gosh, you're just the worst hand ever. You don't do anything that the feet are doing. Why can't you walk more? You're the worst. You never walk. You don't do any walk because you're a hand. And this is what leaders do to their team, just because, again, they don't have these tools, maybe, or maybe they haven't wanted to lean into these tools that, again, as you've seen, sometimes are so simple. But when you can look at something for what it is and you reinforce the way that thing was created to be and the gifts and talents it has, holy cow, if I work out my arms as if they're arms, these suckers are going to be good. And if I work out my legs as if they're legs, I'm going to have some strong legs. And then you have a healthy overall body instead of everybody trying to do everybody else's part and then getting brain damage for trying to do something they were never created to do in the first place. Now
Yeah.
this, so it's just, I think it's not saying that there aren't going to be times you're going to have to do things you don't like. That is life too. We do need to do things. We're not just all going to get to do the only things that we love.
Right.
However, we can certainly start to strengthen and amplify those natural abilities and gifts and talents and reinforce them in each other. And when you do that, you find, wow, the puzzle piece actually fits all together when we're all different puzzle shapes and pieces and we're all not trying to be the same one.
Yeah. Don't you find in that sometimes that we can see others' gifts really well, but we don't necessarily see ours. So kind of like the example you said where the girl's like, "No, you're not really good at events." And that can feel like, well, I need to go improve and I'm going to prove myself at the events. And sometimes it's not that we need to quit or not do, but passion suddenly joins the conversation when you're functioning in your gifts and talents. But like, have you ever had a hard conversation guiding people into their gifts and saying, you're not that, you really are this though? Is that like, can you give
I
perspective?
I I honestly I don't know. I feel like when you lead with telling someone how good they are at something, then when they can receive, hopefully, right? Not everybody, but that tells a lot more about them than it does you, right? That tells more where they are. But when you can lead with firing somebody up with what they're good at and just say, "Hey, listen, I've been watching you for 2 years. I've worked alongside you. I've seen what you can do. I don't know if you know this or not, but like you are fantastic on your content creation and social media. You kill it." Now, in these other two areas, I'm not as familiar with, or you can say I am, and I've seen you do these things. You tell me, but I'm seeing that this one would probably be an area that you're maybe not as good at that we could strengthen. And I know who is, by the way, of someone I'm going to partner you up with. Remember, see, I'm going back to the team
Yeah.
thing that's going to help you on that. But let's work on your strength. Let's amplify your strengths while we're working on those weaknesses. Okay. But like, that's it. It's not people are going to receive your constructive criticism, which you are going to have at some point, right, in your career and in your leadership, much more when they have already seen that you value them for what they actually are good at. So lead with that then. Lead with the valuing first and what they're good at, and then move into the places they need to work on.
So good at. Now, this is like, by the way, parents, like all of this stuff, right? We're leading people, and one of the most important things we can do is call out greatness in others, and not like not sameness. It's I forget the book I got this from, but the author Sally Hogshead says different is better than better. And sometimes knowing the uniquenesses that actually give us our unfair advantage doesn't free us from everything. Like, we all have to pay bills, or there's stuff that we all have to do as a part of our life. We can't just say, well, I'm weak at that, I won't do it.
Mm-hmm.
But it does free us to have a plan that is, there's room for innovation. There's room for
Right.
things to be done differently there.
And it forces you to collaborate. The quicker you are at realizing what you're good and not good at is going to force you to collaborate and network, which anybody who wants to have any impact of any kind should be doing, right? It forces you to go, hey, I'm really not good at this. I need to find somebody who is, like, who's good at this. That's how you build very strong, sustaining teams, right? So get very quick at recognizing your strengths and weaknesses so you can plug in accordingly to build a really solid organization.
So good. Now you say something, and you say it to leaders, and I want you to say it to our leaders. But there's a phrase that you you say, look in the mirror. What is that like in the ways that you like talk to us about that?
Yeah.
Why do we need to be looking in the mirror?
Um, how can I ask my team to do something I'm not willing to do or haven't done? Right. So that's where that stems from, is just like, okay, so I want them to all these things, right? I want them to be motivated. Have I ever shared with them what motivates me? Have I ever shared with
Oh,
them how last year I was in one of the darkest times personally, going through a health crisis that maybe they didn't see in the workplace, and how I got through that and how I was motivated to come back from that? Have I ever, we kind of already touched on this, right? With the whole transparency and authenticity, but that's what the look in the mirror is all about, is just is sharing with the team, what are you doing when numbers are down? What are you doing what are the conversations you're having? Tell your team what you're doing, and tell them, "Hey man, this is really hard for me too. Like I'm with you. Like this has been a tough one, but here's what I'm working on. What are you working on?" And then back to the questions and on and on and on. So I think that's where the look in the mirror starts, is what are you doing in the time of crisis to lead by example, first and foremost, but also to tell your team. They don't know what they don't know. And again, they're going to be so much more motivated when they find out you're human too, and that you're just, life is happening to you too. And oh my
yeah.
gosh, all that stuff.
There was a it's interesting. So when I by the time I had my first real, I don't say real, but like corporate leadership position, I was working with a coach and he helped. I don't know if he helped me. I don't know where this came from, but I know an element of it existed once I had a child or two or three or eight. We have eight.
Love it.
But the affirmation or the I am statement is I will do the things I wish to give others permission to do. And I think as leaders, like that's the mirror. You gotta go first.
Oh,
You want people to be good followers, you need to go find someone to be a good follower to.
yep.
You want people to be open, be open. You want them to share what their roadblocks are,
Yeah.
share your roadblocks. It's
The leader isn't necessarily the one with all the knowledge at all. It's the one that's willing to step out even without the knowledge and figure it out. So, exactly that. Go first.
oh yes. Yes and amen. Now, and at the same time, we may be giving a lot of energy and pushing and drawing and cajoling and doing stuff for people that they're done. They gave up. What do we do with those people? Like, how does Connie move on from people? Like some of us, we take ownership for people. We feel responsible to getting them to their life
Yeah.
vision, their dreams, their goals, their purpose. Talk to us about some dead
Yeah.
plants here. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Watering dead plants. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do to someone is let them go. And if you don't know that yet, I hope you do by the end of today's call. Your job is not to keep every single person in your organization. I don't care what industry you're in, that is not your job. Your job is to shepherd them well for the season that you have them. You're not in control of whether people are going to come and go. You're not in control if they're going to stay on track with their motivation or their whatever. You're in control with doing the best you can to shepherd them and pour into them and value them and help them see what motivates them for the season that you have them. And some people, that's going to be only a few weeks, a few months, a few years, whatever, right? So you're not here to hold everybody. Okay. So that's the first thing. The second thing is you go back to what we just talked about already. Before anybody whatever was to quit, I would say, if you're going to quit, call me first. I want to have a conversation with you before you leave or before you quit. If you're just so far down, all of your leaders have tried to help and you're just like, we're kind of to that point, right? Before you give the final buzzer, I would love to have a conversation with you. And guess where the conversation went? To everything we just talked about, to that onboarding sheet, to the what happened in the season. Oh, okay, and you tried that. Oh, you had the accountability, you had the questions, you had the 1 week thing, you leaned in on the team. Okay, so it's always first train them up, give them the opportunity, right? Go through those questions, put the accountability, and then at some point, yes, it's are we really doing this or are we not doing this? And so having those tough conversations only came after I've given them the opportunity, after I've really tried to assess what motivates them, after I've
Mm.
really come alongside them and trained them, and then it was a matter of, okay, you know what? Maybe you're okay in this organization, but not in this role. And you find that out with people's gifts and talents. Let's move you to this role. Or maybe it looks like nothing about this is joyful to you at all. And nothing about this is working for your family life at all. And nothing about this right now in this season actually seems to be making sense at all. So why are we here? You know? And so again, sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let someone go. And I
Yes.
feel a peace about letting people go after I have done all of those things because again, I want them to, and I would say this every time, I want you to go and thrive where you're created to thrive. And if it's not here and it's not with me, then that is okay. I just hope you leave with something I've given you that you can take on into your next adventure. And
So good.
so that's the whole like stop watering dead plants, recognize when you're there after you've done all those steps because it is sometimes easier to give birth than to raise people from the dead. That's a phrase we always would say is you're trying to raise someone from the dead, you're trying to plug a person in that this is just not it for them. They were not wired to be here and they learned some great things and now let's let them go take them on to where they actually can thrive
Mm.
in their gifting and talents to better their family. Okay? And let's give birth to someone else who's new to train them up. And there we go. We go through the cycle.
So good. By the way, thank you because there we go.
Oh, there you
To
go.
make sure that it's kind of looking, he's my plant's talking to me at the same time you are. He's like,
Yes.
you better listen to what
Yeah,
Connie's
that's
saying.
right.
Yeah, it's so interesting that as you're saying this, like I didn't one of the things I love helping people to do is to find their purpose. And I know that you're passionate about that. And one of the things that I feel like is overlooked is actually the moment you're talking about. And I'm saying this, I'm pausing here and putting the magnifying glass here because I want leaders to own this and feel like this is a good place. Sometimes the greatest indicator of purpose and what you're passionate about and would love to do is the thing that's causing you pain, the thing that you hate to do. And sometimes actually it's in the place where you're in this horrible, like the horrible pain of whatever that is, and you keep thinking about this other thing. Our job as leaders is not to like having to hold forever every person. I think there is maybe a responsibility dysmorphia that a lot of us have.
Totally.
We feel like if we lose someone, it's our fault and what guy should have done more
Yeah.
and better. And no, it's really our job. If we view our role and like, I just love the way that you framed it as like someone that's like there to shepherd them to their purpose. And I'm gonna try, and we'll make sure that you're not quitting on yourself or quitting on what you believe or whatever. But maybe this just doesn't work out anymore, and that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. And like you said, how do you know sometimes that you're not meant to be a basketball player? Well, you go try to be a basketball player and you realize I actually am not going to be
Yes,
in the NBA,
right.
and that's okay. And sometimes you need to see a few crushed dreams in
Yeah.
order to get to the one that you are made to fulfill. Okay. So it's it's all a part of the process and it's all okay. And you as the leader telling somebody that and reassuring that in them is huge. And I think that has been something that has done well for me in the different seasons of having to have those hard conversations and feeling like maybe I did hurt someone or whatever. Is I believe at the end of the day they knew where I was coming from. They knew what that I loved them more than I loved what they could do for my organization. And so we stay in touch many years later. There's no burnt bridges, so to speak. It's thank you for doing that because now I'm over here doing what I actually really do love instead of trying to hold on so tightly to that
Mm,
wasn't for me.
so good. I I'm gonna ask you to talk from the heart for a second, because sometimes the indicator of the next thing that our next chapter is sometimes it could be the pain of a moment, or it can be the realization that something we need to put something away. And for some of us, it's like maybe it's a way of doing business, maybe it's a business altogether. But you've transitioned like multiple times from one thing to another, and you've grown every time. You've developed every time. But like the spirit of recreation, that spirit of regeneration, of making an old thing new, or maybe a new, or maybe finding something new. But talk to some of us who are maybe we're facing a new chapter and frame that. And I'm like, it's funny in
Hmm.
my mind. I'm just thinking of transition, even the word transition, like in labor and delivery. Well, you're a mother, but it's
Hmm.
like I remember going through the classes and it stuck with me that the hardest time where all the work is being done, is that painful time, and it's called transition. And so talk to people in transition.
Oh, yeah. Goodness. I feel like I've lived there for the majority of my life. It seems like there's always a transition, like I said in the beginning of the call. Um, you know, again, it's seeing what happens after that. What happens after the transition of birth is that's when the baby comes. Okay. So again, this starts with perspective. Transition has to occur, meaning difficulties, trials, whatever, in order for you to receive what is truly on the other side, whether that's a new job, a new whatever. Think about it. When you're comfortable and you have all the money flowing in and business is fantastic and everybody's getting along and things are just rolling, how likely are you going to be to step out and start something brand new? Not going to be likely. You're going to be coasting. You are just trying to savor this. You are not trying to be. But if that is not where you are meant to be, and oftentimes, again, in order for us to grow and take the next step, God allows these bumps to come to throw us off track, so to speak, so that we can take the next step. Because it doesn't mean that this thing is terrible. It just means that maybe it's time to let go of the good to go for the great.
Hmm.
And when we're in the good, it's hard to do that. I feel like transition for me has always come when it's actually things have been going pretty well. I think that's actually harder for people to move on. I think take it as a blessing sometimes when you have been forced to take a step back, whether it's health or money or whatever. It's like the car light going off in your car. It's the check engine light, and it's giving you an opportunity to take a moment and really go, what's really going on here, so that you can
Mm.
be open to change and whatever's happening. But I'm telling you, it's harder to take transition when things are actually going really, really well. Are you willing to receive maybe some transition at that time, right? And really just be open to what might be next. So for me, it's always okay. If this came out of the blue and I wasn't planning this, then I need to pay attention because there's something to this. And it's either a yes or a no, but there's something to this that I need to pay attention to.
So good. I love the pay attention. It's almost like your life becomes like an Easter egg hunt, and you're not just looking for what you need to do. You're also looking for what, like you're flowing and connected to something much bigger
Right.
than
Okay, you said this, Donnie. I'm not to cut you off, but I'm just thinking right now. There's a book you guys, most of you probably already know. It obviously has a spiritual background, but please don't ignore it if you're not someone who's spiritual. It is called The Purpose Driven Life. What on earth am I here for? And he talks about knowing your shape. Okay. And all of these things are what kind of build up to your calling and your purpose and then what motivates you. Right. And so, I'm just thinking of that because you will find, especially going through that book, you really have one calling. You have a calling on your life. You have one purpose, if you want to call it that. You have a calling, but it can be expressed in many different ways throughout your life. You'll have a lot of different jobs. You might have a few different careers, but you have one calling.
mm,
And so that is why transition to me and my husband is accepted a little easier than maybe most, is because we know what we're made to do. We know what our gifts and talents are, and we can do that in any job and anywhere because we have one calling. It just looks different in different seasons. It looks different. And when you see the world like that, you're just so much more able to take on new challenges and new seasons. I'm still Connie. I still have my same Conniness. I'm just doing it in this area now, if that makes sense.
so when someone asks, what's your, who are you? What do you do? You're not just a realtor. You're not just a loan officer. You're not a manager. You're not a sales, professional. That's what you do that takes advantage of the gifts and the calling or the vocation. Vocation means calling of
Yep.
of your life, and it can be expressed 10,000 different
Totally.
ways. Be innovative. Like this is a season for innovating.
Yep.
Connie, this has been so fun. There's so much here. I know people are going to get a lot from this. I know from now and from the recording. And someone asked the question. If anyone has any questions, you can throw it in here. But someone asked the question about your onboarding form, and there might be a place where they can find that, or maybe we can put that into Fuel. But someone's asking that. If you already have it available, of course, we'll take wherever you would direct us. Is there Is there, where would we find Connie? We want more Connie. We love to hear Connie. This is the energy we want to fuel ourselves with. Where can we get more of this?
So normally I would say Instagram, to be honest. That was where I've kind of just worked it out the most, but I've really stepped away from there. You can still go to my Instagram, Connie __ Sanchez. So two underscores. Right now I'm working on, again, with being home with the girls, I do have some new projects coming up where I'm doing some more speaking for events and things. And so you guys can go to lighthousecollective.global and you can find me there and get a hold of me there and contact me there. Lighthousecollective.global.
Lighthousecollective.global. Connie, thank you so much for lighting us up. Thanks for helping us to I don't know, I just feel like this turns leadership not into some like lofty thing, but just like it's just practical family, like organic. It just feels like
Yes.
real and simple. And thanks for doing that
Well,
for us.
that's awesome. I loved being here with you guys. Please reach out to me any way it can help. I'd just love to hear any feedback. If you guys implement any of these things, I would love to know, how that worked out. So thanks for having me, Donnie.
All right. Thanks, Connie.